Let's get into some things of the things, child. We got some stuff to talk about today, honey. We got some stuff to talk about. Hit that like button. If you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We have a great time over here. You meant what you said when you said it. Really did that, because I'll be understanding y'all sometimes. And when y'all know when I say y'all, you know I ain't talking about y'all. I'm talking about y'all. Fix me that all these people that got something to say have been actively involved in the political process in their world. I don't believe it. You ain't gonna convince me. I know y'all love me. What's up, y'all? Happy Hump Day. Dang, it's Hump Day. Oh, Lord, look at my hair. Happy Hump Day, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Now, we're not going to be here for a long time. We're going to be here. We want to go over the documents have been released from the preliminary hearing as it relates to David. You guys know we have been following that case. David is the singer who has been charged with unaliving Celeste Rivera. We've been picking up bits and pieces over the last probably like 6 months, I guess. So TMZ did release the documents from what came out in the preliminary hearing that happened on last week. Now, I want to say this. I'm going to read through the documents, but I want to say before we go into any of the documents, parental discretion or warning. I say parental discretion. We all adults here. Warning. I'm going to edit myself as I read through the documents because some things I'm just not going to say. But today, I'm sorry, Tracy, this was today. Some things I'm just not going to say today. I'm just not going to say. So I want you guys to just be careful if it, trigger warning about it gets into the details of what happened. Again, I'm going to edit myself accordingly, to be honest with you. But I just want to let you guys know. So before we get into it, if this is something, it's going to be a lot for you, govern yourselves accordingly. Okay? Govern yourselves accordingly. Okay? All right. So let's get ready to get into it. Again, this was from today's. And I want to say, I didn't say this yesterday, but baby, David had the nerve to tell the judge he needed a new haircut and some clothes for his hearing today, child. Boy, bye. Anyway, so let me get into it. I'm not going to share my screen only because, like I said, I'm going to edit myself as I read. So I'm not going to share my screen. I know a lot of times I put the documents up on the screen, but again, there's a reason why I'm not reading everything. So I'm not going to put it up on the screen. Hold on. I want to make this a little bit bigger because I know, child, me trying to read this stuff, honey. Oh, excuse me. Oh, so sorry. Okay. And shout out, I was at the gym today, y'all. I went back to the gym today. I'm trying to, get back in my groove. So I was at the gym today. And shout out to the subscriber who was like, baby, I had my earbud in and I heard, really B. And I was like, is somebody calling me? So shout out to the subscriber. And I forgot to get your name. I'm so sorry. I forgot to get your name. But we hugged, we spoke. And I said, drop down in the chat and tell me you're the lady from the gym. And I know who you are. But I really forgot to ask what her screen name was. But shout out to you, girl. Maybe we could be gym buddies, honey. I don't know. Because she looked like she go there regularly. Maybe we could be gym buddies or something. All right. So let's get ready to get into this. It's 9 pages long. So, we've read longer. All right. Ready, you guys? I was trying to give people a few minutes to get in here, but we're going to go ahead and get started. If you're catching this in the replay, just hit that like button, please, and thank you. Child, I can't find it now. Where'd I put it? Well, YouTube probably hasn't sent out any notifications. What the heck? Okay, here it is. I was like, where'd I put it? Dang that bit. Why does it keep doing this? Oh, here it is right here. Okay, because I was like, why does it keep doing this? All right, here we go. Let's get ready to get started. All right. Okay, so this is dated April the 29th. So like I said, this is from today. The people of the state of California versus David Anthony Burke. So let's get into the background facts, you guys. Okay. The dismembered body of Celeste was discovered in the front trunk of the defender's Tesla Model X on September the 8th of 2025. The vehicle had been towed 3 days prior from 1405 Bluebird Avenue, which was parked approximately 400 feet from the defendant's home at 1368 Donny Place in the Hollywood Hills. Surveillance video and other evidence confirmed on July the 29th of 2025 before he left Los Angeles on a concert tour. That's one thing about them Teslas, baby. Them Teslas are going to tell the story every time, honey. They're going to tell on you. Them Teslas going to tell on you. On September the 8th of 2025, the manager of the tow yard where the Tesla had been impounded noted the strong smell of decay and the presence of flies coming from the vehicle. He notified LAPD, Hollywood auto detectives, who determined the Tesla was registered to the defendant through departmental resources. At the tow yard, LAPD detectives opened the Tesla's front storage compartment and observed a black cadaver bag covered in insects. Inside the bag, they discovered a severely decomposed head and torso. A plastic garbage bag beneath the black cadaver bag contained the rest of the body. However, the victim's ring and pinky fingers on her left hand had been amputated and were not found in the Tesla. On September the 16th of 2025, the LA County Medical Examiner Department positively identified the body from dental records belonging to the victim. Pursuant to their investigation, LAPD robbery homicide detectives determined the victim and the defendant met in January of 2022 when she was 11 years old. They began a sexual relationship in November of 2023 when the victims were just 13 years old. The defendant was 18. Okay. So when they met, he was 17. And then, okay. Detectives learned that the victim had been reported missing to the Riverdale County Sheriff's Department by her family, who live in Lake Elsmore in February, and in April of 2024. The RCSD telephonically contacted the defendant on February the 17th after they identified a phone number in the victim's phone records that belonged to him. During the call, the defendant claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February the 13th or 14th, but stated he was unaware that she was a minor or that she had been reported missing. The RCSD advised him that Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department deputies would be coming to his home. On that day, the defendant was living at 804 North Donny Place in West Hollywood. The RCSD requested that the LA Sheriff's Department conduct a welfare check at the defendant's home. When the deputies went to the defendant's home on that night at 8:15 p.m. and informed the victim. Hold on, y'all. And informed him that the victim was a 13-year-old runaway. So hold on, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back. So they met in January of 2022. They began a relationship in November of 2023 when she was 13 and he was 18. So it sounds like they're saying he waited until he was quote unquote legal before he started dating her, but he ain't wait till she was legal. But moving right along, they said that she was reported missing in February and in April of 2024. So November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, child, a year later, child. I don't know why I just did that. All right. So 6 months later, she was reported missing, right? Am I doing that right? November, December, January, February. Okay, so 3 months later. So in November, they became sexually active. And then in February, her family reported her missing. The police from the county where her family lives contacted him on February the 17th of 2024. He said that the last time he talked to her was February the 13th or February the 14th. So he said it had been about a week since he had talked to her, but he told the police he didn't know she was underage. Okay. So then the LA Sheriff's Department went to his house on the day of February the 17th to do a welfare check. And they informed him that she was a 13-year-old runaway. All right, are we keeping up with the timeline? That's why I stopped, because it was a lot of dates and times. Are we keeping up with the timeline? Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure we on the same timeline. All right, let me go back. Let me go back and keep reading. Okay, so the defendant again claimed that he was unaware that she was a minor and he had only met the victim once in person in November of 2023. So now he's saying he had only met that lady. I'm sorry, she's a girl. She was a young girl. That he had only met that young lady once in November 2023. However, the defendant showed deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. So then you knew how old she was, dummy. Sir. If you had her yearbook picture, okay, I'm going to just keep reading. He showed the deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. Although he claimed to be unaware of where the victim was at that time, she returned home 2 days later. Okay, so on November the 17th, he said, I didn't know she was a minor. I don't know where she is. I haven't talked to her in about a week. But miraculously, 2 days later, she went home. Okay. All right. I wonder if that's the video we saw of her cussing out her neighbors. Remember that video we saw of her cussing out her neighbors? But that was a video that was taken after. It was like, actually, I think it was right before she went missing. So maybe that's not the same video. All right. Let me keep reading. Despite being informed by law enforcement that the victim was only 13 years old, the defendant continued to pursue her. After the victim returned home in February of 2024, her parents took her cell phone away. Defendant drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give the victim a cell phone that he purchased so that they could stay in contact. Throughout 2024, the victim spent a significant amount of time with the defendant, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet. Now, here's where I have some questions for the family. How the hell did she get on a plane as an underage person with a passport to London? I need somebody to explain that to me. I need y'all in the chat to explain that to me. How did she get on an international flight as a minor with a passport to go to London? I just need to understand. And again, I don't know all of the answers, but I have to feel like, number one, how does she have her passport? She's 14. I mean, how many of you guys, she forged her family signature. She had to have forged paperwork, which again, You knew, well, we already know that he knew she was underage. But again, you know, let me just keep reading. Unless she lied and said she was with someone else or a school function. But they still need paperwork. Even if you're going on a school trip, they got to see the signed permission slip. Let me tell you something. When we went to Jamaica a few years ago, my girlfriend, she was taking her grandson, who she has custody of. But it's not like, it's that hood custody. You just gonna go live with your grandmama kind of thing. So she doesn't have like legal custody of him, but the boy lives with her. She pays for his school, all that kind of stuff. She had to get paperwork from his parents, a letter notarized from his parents saying she had permission to take him out of the country. And we were just going to Jamaica. And at the time, he was in the 8th grade. So again, we're not talking about no infant. He was in the 8th grade around the same time as this young lady. Child. But even with a fake ID, she still has to get a passport. You're not getting no passport with no fake ID unless it's a fake passport. You're not getting a real passport with a fake ID. That's not happening. I mean, let me say this. Let me say this. I find it hard to believe that you can get a legitimate passport with a fake ID. Let me say that. Let me just say that. I ain't saying it's impossible because, child, anything is possible. But I find it hard to believe that you can get a legitimate passport with a fake ID. But call me crazy. Because the first time you get a passport, you got to show your birth certificate and all that shit. Like, you have to show, child, the first time. I mean, it's been a while since I got my first passport, but I know I needed to get my birth certificate. I know I needed my birth certificate. And it had to be the real birth certificate. It couldn't be like a little copy. It had to be like the one with the seal on it. It had to be your real birth certificate. If I remember correctly, again, I'm on my 3rd passport now. So I got my first passport when I was in my 20s. So I honestly don't remember, but I remember needing my birth certificate. That I do remember. But anyway, I'm going to just keep reading. I don't want to get sidetracked there, child. Let's keep going. So she went to Las Vegas, London, and Texas. Okay. Text exchanges between the victim and the defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and the use of Plan B emergency contraceptive. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their sexual relationship. In November of 2024, the defendant and the victim broke up. Although they continue to communicate, the text messages suggest they also continue to have relations. In April of 2025, okay, so April 2025 is the likely date of the victim. April 23rd, of 2025 is the likely date of the victim's death and when all her cellular activity ceased. The night prior, on April the 22nd of 2025, the victim and the defendant engaged in a lengthy argument described in detail in their text messages. The messages revealed the victim's jealousy over the defendant's relationship with other women, as defendant led her to believe they had a future together. She became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with the defendant to end his career and destroy his life. Well, yeah, that's probably what happened. The defendant's first studio album was due to be released in April 25th of 2025. He had an emerging multi-million-dollar career already in progress. He also had multiple product endorsements, which were highly profitable. At approximately 8:40 on April the 23rd of 2025, the defendant sent an Uber to transport the victim from her Lake Elsinore home to his residence. They communicated before and during her Uber ride, which dropped her off at defendant's Hollywood Hills home around 10:10 p.m. At approximately 10:30 p.m., the defendant sent text messages to the victim inquiring where she was. The people contend that this was part of the defendant's premeditated plan to cover up the murder, as she was already dead at the time. Knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career, as she had threatened, very soon after the arrival to his home, the defendant stabbed the victim This is what they're saying. Nobody knows this to be true. This is what the people are alleging. Okay, I just want to be clear. I'm not saying this is what happened. I wasn't there. The defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood. I think you should have said stabbed the victim multiple times because you can only die once. But okay, moving right along. And stood by while she bled out. At no time did he call law enforcement or 911 to take her to an emergency room to attempt to save her life. Despite knowing she was unalive and her family was trying to find her, the evidence will show that the defendant lied and claimed he didn't know where she was. In fact, the defendant drove to Santa Barbara County immediately after the victim died, attempting to dispose of her property and destroy evidence. At approximately 11:30 p.m. on April the 23rd of 2025, he drove away from his home as he texted and called the victim's phone, asking where she was. Again, these were acts calculated and planned to set up his defense with a very short timeline after the victim's vicious murder. The defendant drove his Tesla north on the 101 freeway to San Marcos Pass Road, SR 154, near Lake Cucamonga. I don't know, I'm saying it wrong. In Santa Barbara. He returned home early the following morning on April the 24th of 2025 before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent 2 additional texts to the victim's phone that day, which obviously went unanswered because she was already unalive. After April the 26th of 2025, the defendant never attempted to contact her again. Yeah, I guess you didn't. Tellingly, the defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember and dispose of the victim's body. On April the 24th of 2025, the defendant ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. On May the 1st, the defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered two chainsaws to his home. On May the 5th, the defendant ordered and Amazon subsequently delivered a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool to his home. He made these purchases under fake names. Victor Mendez on April the 8th of 2025, the defendant returned to the same area in Santa Barbara County, leaving his home around 11:30 p.m. He returned to the area again on May 31st of 2025. This is an isolated site off of SR 154 where the victim's identification was subsequently discovered. In January of 2026, additionally, on July the 7th of 2025, the defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name as part of his plan to incinerate evidence. Moreover, the defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body. After her placing her body in the blue inflatable pool to prevent the blood from spilling into his garage floor, defendant, I'm not going to read all of that. He did stuff. Hold on, I'm not reading all of this. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. I'm not going to read all those details. All I'm going to say is he used the chainsaw. That's it. I'm not going to read those details. I'm sorry. Let's just know he used the chainsaw. They're saying that they believe that he amputated her finger because she had a tattoo of his name on her finger. Child, we saw the pictures of that. Okay. Yeah, some of this I'm just not going to read all these details. Okay. They believe that the body was inside of the Tesla for months. Okay. He lied to friends, business associates, and others who noticed the strong smell in and around his home and vehicle. Before leaving on his concert tour at the end of July, he parked his Tesla on the street around the corner from his home. LAPD served a search warrant at defendant's home on September the 17th of 2025. After the victim was identified by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner on September the 16th, inside the garage, detectives discovered evidence consistent with the dismemberment of a victim's body in the inflatable pool, which contained multiple linear cuts, several biological samples, including blood, were collected from the garage. DNA analysis determined the various samples matched the victim's genetic profile. On December the 9th of 2025, the medical examiner ruled the victim's death a homicide caused by 2 penetrating injuries to the torso. On January the 17th of 2025, the victim's U.S. passport card was found by a Caltrans worker off of the SR 154 in Santa Barbara County. So he did have her passport. All right, so let me just pause right there for a second. So this what I don't understand. What the fuck took y'all so long to arrest him? Like, with the way y'all got this laid out, what were y'all waiting for? I mean, were y'all waiting for a signed confession? Like, what were y'all waiting for? And I'm talking to you, LAPD. Hey, I'm talking to you. Let me keep reading. We almost done, y'all. Now this is the evidence. And if it becomes redundant, I'm not going to read it. We're on page 6, so we're almost done. The people will present the following evidence as at the preliminary hearing, including but not limited to description of photographs depicting the victim naked, as well as while she was engaged with the defendant, in sexual activity when she was 13. As the evidence constitutes blah, 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 blah. The photographs themselves will not be presented. All while possible charges that could prove they were not filed is proof of their ongoing sexual relationship while the victim was 13 and 14 years old. Numerous text messages between the defendant and the victim in evidencing their sexual relationship, pregnancy, abortion, the use of Plan B. Messages through March 2025 prove the defendant continued to manipulate the victim as she messaged, "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself." The messages were obtained from the defendant's iCloud data. The defendant's cellular activity and communications derived from the defendant's iPhone and Tesla, which demonstrate the defendant's activities from April the 22nd through the 24th of 2025, including a trip to Santa Monica County in the middle of the night after the victim arrived in his Hollywood Hills home. Surveillance video of the defendant driving his Tesla on July the 29th for the last time. DNA evidence from the garage. Proof of the defendant's Amazon purchases and deliveries. Proof of the defendant's purchase and delivery from Postmates. Uber records showing the defendant's transactions where he ordered an Uber to pick up the victim from her Lake Elsinore home and transport her to his residence the night of April 23rd. Proof of the defendant's lucrative career as a singer-songwriter. We don't care about that. And his tour. Text message exchanges between the defendant and the victim on April the 22nd through the 23rd, where the victim threatened to expose the defendant and destroy his career. In conclusion, this brief is filed to assist the court in understanding the scope and relevance of the evidence the prosecution intends to present at the preliminary hearing. The prosecution has issued numerous subpoenas and is prepared to proceed with the preliminary hearing. The defense has had multiple opportunities to request a continuance, but has not done so. Furthermore, California Penal Code, blah, 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 requires the defense to provide at least 2 court days notice to request a continuance. In view of the limited scope of evidence to be presented at the preliminary hearing detailed in this brief, there should be no substantial impediment to moving forward with the hearing as scheduled. And that is dated April the 29th of 2026. Forensics don't work as fast in real life as on TV. That's true. That's true. You're right. Law and Order do make it seem like they get that stuff back in one day. You're right. That's valid. You right. Y'all, listen. I wish this is one of the times I wish I was doing this full time, because baby, I would fly my ass to California. I follow this trial like they was following the Diddy trial. This is a sad case. I think a lot of people failed this young lady. I'm not going to let her family off the hook. She didn't, just because her family may have been negligent in protecting her, that doesn't make it okay for this predator to take advantage of her. But I do feel like the family fail her on some level as well. Because again, I just got questions, but okay. This is just sad, y'all. This is so sad. This is so sad. I think David and the family had an arrangement. I kind of think so too. Because if he was willing to pay some random classmate of hers $1,000 to take her a phone so they could keep talking to each other, I mean, what else was he willing to pay? And to whom for access? Because again, somebody would have to explain to me how that man got her passport and got her to London and back. Again, first of all, and I know that all of our systems are not aligned. I understand that. But if she was reported a runaway, why didn't anything flag in the system? Because even with her getting on a plane, she's a minor. If she's reported as a runaway, that's not in the system when you go through the airport. That kind of stuff don't get flagged. Because again, my question is, and I don't know this, y'all. I honestly don't know. So I'm asking, what ID is needed for a child, a minor getting on a plane? If you don't have a passport, what other ID do you use? I know this summer when we went to Disney World and we took my nephew, my sister had his birth certificate. And they pulled him aside. Let me tell y'all something. This is why I know, because they pulled my nephew aside and asked him questions. And because like my sister had to say, all right, this is not the time to play. Like, answer their questions and be honest. Like, don't play. And so they asked him what was his name, and he gave them his full name. And they asked, well, how old are you? And he said his age, and I think they said, what's your mom's name, or what's your dad's name, or something. But they only asked him like 2 or 3 questions, because I mean my nephew's 7. So they didn't go deep, but they asked him, what is your name? How old are you? And I think he said, who are those people? I think he said, who are those people? And he said, and he was kind of like, my mom and dad. You know, he had this face like, what you mean, who are the people? So again, if they did that for a 6-year-old, again, and I know some of these dates may have overlapped. I understand that. Maybe her family had not when he took these flights, maybe her family had not reported her as a runaway at that point. But it's just, I don't know. It's just weird. And maybe they drove to LA. I mean, drove to Vegas. They could have very easily drove to Vegas. But Texas and London, I don't know. Okay, Nitwit says she's never had to present ID for her boys when flying. Okay. Well, when we went to Florida, like I said, I don't know why they did that, but they did do that for my sister. They did ask her. I mean, they did pull my nephew aside and ask him. And again, it was real quick. It wasn't nothing deep. She may have already had the passport. Well, and that, I get it. I understand that. So here's the thing, y'all. I just be brainstorming with y'all. See, I did what I said yesterday. I said I hate when people do that, and I just did it. I'm just brainstorming with, like, we're just brainstorming, right? I understand that every family does not function as my family. But I know if I had a passport at 14, I wouldn't have access to it. It would be locked up with my parent. It would be in the family. It would be in the safe with all the other important documents and stuff like that. The only time I would see my passport is when we were getting on the flight. And I feel like my mom and my dad will be like, as soon as we got on the flight, my mom would be like, give me your passport. Because she did that with our birth certificates. If we ever needed our birth certificate for something, as soon as we used it, she'd be like, all right, give it back. Give it back. And I understand everybody don't function that way. But I'm just trying to understand how a 14-year-old has access to her passport. Her having a passport isn't an issue. I think that's great. That's great. But her having access to it, and I understand everybody's family don't function like mine. I get it. Baby, my mother still has my undergrad degree, and I think she lost it. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty certain she lost it. And when I say lost, it's probably in that house somewhere, but she don't know where it is. Because I was like, Mom, where's my degree? And she was like, I'll get you another one. Like she was actually, and I think she actually, anyway, neither here nor there. Child, that's another conversation. But my mama actually, I have my 2 graduate degrees, but baby, I ain't seen my degree from Bennett in probably 15 years. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere at my parents' house. Because she said she paid for it. So it was hers. What was I supposed to say to her? No, you didn't? Okay. Okay, you got it. This teenager was a different breed. She was child functioning as an adult. And I agree with that, Joy. Joy Barnes, I agree with that. I do believe that this child was functioning. That's why I said a lot of people failed her. A lot of people failed her. And he took advantage of it. Which we've had this conversation before about predators identifying and knowing who to take advantage of. Right? Because people always say, it wouldn't have been me. It wouldn't have been me. You're right. It wouldn't have been you. Because a predator identifies what they need to see in a person to be able to get what they need. Right? For people who could never fall for the R. Kellys of the world, you're right. And that's why R. Kelly would probably have never approached you. And if he did approach you, he would know very early on, oh yeah, nah, she ain't the one. So when people say, well, that wasn't my experience with him, you're right. It probably wasn't your experience with him. Not that he didn't size you up. Not that he didn't look at you as a potential prey, but you either did something or said something that made him be like, okay, not her. Right? You know, when K Michelle said, I believe the victims, but that wasn't my experience. I think we have to stop beating people up when they say that wasn't their experience, because the reality is, for the people that say it would have never been me, you're right. It probably wouldn't have been you. And that is why they didn't try you. And that's not to say that people who've been violated are weak or whatever. But listen, these people are trained to see certain things. And then once they see it, they exploit it. It's the same as people who have fraud committed on them. That doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't make you dumb or naive. It just means that they see something. There's something there that makes them say, I can exploit that. I can exploit that. You know? So that's why when people say that, it bothers me when people say that, like, with in a judgy way. Let me say that. I don't have a problem with people who say it, because but with people who say it in a judgy way, as if, oh shit. I mean, you're right. It probably wouldn't be you. You're not who they looking for. That's just like, and I know I don't want to get too far off the topic because we ain't gonna be here too much longer. But that's just like I saw with Summer Walker, and I don't really know that much about Summer Walker. I don't listen to a lot of her music and stuff like that. But one thing Summer Walker said the other day, and I was so here for it, baby. I was like, yes. I was like, hand clap, hand clap. She said, stop victimizing women for falling, because she was speaking on the Meg Thee Stallion, Clay Thompson thing. They were like, stop victimizing women for falling for men when men lie. And I'm paraphrasing that because I don't remember her exact quote. But the point she was making was, when a person presents themselves a certain way, and that is who, when their representative shows up and we fall for the representative, don't beat us up on the back end when the real asshole shows up and we didn't know that person. That's not who we fell in love with. We fell in love with the representative. And I hate when, and we do it more to women than we do to men, but I hate when we beat women up talking about, well, he was a bum. Ain't nobody, and people say that like they knew Klay Thompson. Well, he had these ex-girlfriends. Everybody got exes. And they're exes for a reason. You know what I mean? If this man treated her like a queen, if this man put her on a pedestal, if this man made her feel like she was the one and was calling her wifey, we heard him calling her wifey. We heard that. We saw the pictures of them at Thanksgiving. I hate when we do that to each other. So now we're gonna beat Meg up for falling in love with the man whose job it was to make her fall in love with him. That's so stupid. So now she wrong. So anyway, meanwhile, their presence in the house doing this. Meanwhile, their present is in the house doing the same thing. They're present. I'm not. I know that's probably a typo. I'm just trying to figure out what the word is. Okay, Nitwit says, stop telling women to pick better men when the men present themselves differently for months or even years. Yeah. I think that's closer to what Summer Walker said than what I just said, but y'all get the point. Stop making it our fault that we fell for the asshole. I told you about my ex-boyfriend, baby. My ex-boyfriend, we grew up together. And when I say, like, we knew each other in middle school, high school, our families knew each other. We went to the same church, all of that. We reconnected maybe 10 years ago. It's been about 10 years now. Baby, we reconnected. He told me he was separated. No, he told me he was divorced. I didn't look it up, child. I'll never make that mistake again. But I didn't look it up because I know he didn't live with his wife. I know he didn't live with his wife because I'd been to his place. He had been to my place. We had spent the night with each other. I knew he wasn't living with his wife, right? Well, I did not find out until, unfortunately, he had a stroke, that he was still married. Him and his wife were separated, not divorced, and there's a difference. Now, would I have still dated him with him being separated? Probably, because they weren't living together. I know they weren't living together. I probably would, but I would have known what I was walking my ass into. You know what I mean? I would have known what I was walking my ass into. I did not find out until the man was in a hospital bed. I walk into his hospital room, and who's sitting by his bedside? His wife. Baby, I should write a book about that thing. Ooh, that was interesting. Ooh, that was a situation. Anyway. Ooh, that's a story time. Did I tell y'all that story? I don't know if I ever told y'all that story time. But anyway. Shout out to Tracy who sent me those documents. She let me know that TMZ had posted them. I was out today, but I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go over this. Oh yeah, baby. That's a story time. But anyway, send it to Tyler Perry so he can adapt it, child. It was a Tyler Perry play. Even down to the me walking in that hospital room and the Tyler Perry play, I'd have started singing a song. I'd have went in the hallway and started singing a song about Jesus. Mm-hmm. Anyway, with that being said, y'all, let me get out of here. I appreciate that. I think me and El Teddy are going to be doing a teacher project tomorrow. I do believe we're doing a teacher project tomorrow. And with that being said, let me get out of here. I will talk to y'all later. Peace.